Good evening, good people, and welcome to Axiom Flux. Guest hosting tonight, Season 5, Episode 13, on this, the 17th of March 2019. I'm Ollie Connolly. Thanks for turning up, and please share. And now, a road less traveled. Jordan Maxwell is a preeminent researcher and independent scholar in the field of the occult and religious philosophy. His interest in these subjects began as far back as 1959, and his work exploring the hidden foundations of Western religions and secret societies fascinates and concerns us to this day. And he is here right now. Jordan Maxwell, good evening, sir, and thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for inviting me, and I'm very happy to be here with you.
Jordan, I and many of the folks at Axiom are based in the UK, and as I'm sure you've heard, we're undergoing a lot of concern over what we're seeing with the betrayal of democracy, as many of us see it, in the light of a Brexit betrayal. I wanted to ask your opinion on this, because I know that you don't have much time or any time really for politics. I just wonder if you would advise us that we're barking up the wrong tree in expecting there to be any kind of democracy. Are the people that voted for Brexit and that feel betrayed, are we in a position where we shouldn't expect to be?
Well, I think that the very word democracy needs to be clearly understood, which most people do not really appreciate what the word democracy means. Today, we don't have a people's democracy like we would think about the ancient Greek world talking about democracy. What we have today is a corporate democracy. The government of the UK is a corporation. It's a company. The United States is a company. It's a corporation. It has nothing to do with the original republic. So we are a corporate democracy. The best way to explain that is we are a communist society. Today we refer to democracy as Marxist communism. It's a collectivism which brings all mankind together in a country in a common connection. And this is what you call common man. This is why you have a House of Commons in the UK. Because promoting the common man is communism. And so what we have today is a communist society in Europe and a communist society in America. We in America are a Marxist-Leninist Soviet communist society. We are the new World Communist Party. And we use the term democracy as a ruse, as a trick. We're tricking people to believe that we are here to promote everyone's view, and this is why it's called democracy. No, we're here to promote world communism. And that's why we call it democracy, because all communist governments, if you go back and look at the encyclopedias and reference works, all communist countries were referred to as a people's democracy. It's the People's Democratic Republic of Cuba, the People's Democratic Republic of China, the People's Democratic Republic of Romania. It's always the People's Democratic Republic of Communism. So, democracy. We want everybody in the world to accept our idea here in the U.S. of what democracy means. Democracy in America means bringing all the poor people of the world under one absolute sovereign, totalitarian, fascist world movement headed by America. And so this is why we promote in America Marxist communism, because we call it democracy. It's where all the people of all countries around the world are brought under one government, one absolute sovereign government that controls the whole earth. And this is what America and the UK are involved in. So just understand that when you use the term democracy, what you're talking about is the old-time Soviet communism. But today, it's no longer in the Soviet Union. It's no longer in Russia. Today, it's all over the world, period. And so that's what we call democracy.
I kind of suspect, Jordan, that isn't what people tend to vote for. Why? There seems to be an enormous disparity between what we do vote for and what we get. You're saying this is a deep-set problem. Is it a problem that is beginning to be exposed with the internet, for example? Can we gain some kind of representation as human beings to hopefully improve our world and be better people?
Yeah, I don't think so. And the reason I don't think so is because we, the people around the world, the people, do not have the power to change anything. We don't have the power to do that. And the reason why we don't have the power is because knowledge is power. And as long as the people of this world have no knowledge about how government works, what money is, and how the entire earth operates for thousands of years, if you don't understand how the world works, then you have no power, because knowledge is power. If we all had an education and understood what the words we're hearing from our governments, if we understood what those words meant and what they were doing, then we might be able to decide to do something about it. But today, people are being lied to, deceived, and distracted. They make sure, the governments make sure you have plenty of sports and alcohol and drinking and drugs and games, the ball games and the drinking, alcohol. Make sure the people have plenty to entertain them so that they don't start thinking too much. Because when people start to think, that's causing trouble. Because now they're going to begin to see for the first time what's actually going on the earth, and you don't want that. Because there's too many poor people that if they all got together, it's going to be a terrible day when the world wakes up and finds out what we have been experiencing and how we've been lied to from day one. And so the powers that be in this world, the political powers, religious powers, do not want us waking up. They want to keep us stupid and ignorant, ill-informed, and on drugs and alcohol and watching our ball games and entertaining us with movies and TV and all the silly games that we play. Because if the people ever woke up and found out what's actually going on, and it's very well organized, it's extremely well organized by the people who are trying to destroy our freedoms. And this is what's been going on for thousands of years. The people who control us are going to destroy us completely and put us all in chains so that we will all live comfortably and we will all be living in a common world. The only time you have a common world where everybody is equal is in a prison. That's the only time you find people, all the men living together in a common way, is in prison. And so that's what our masters who run the governments behind the world scene want for us. They want us all in a prison. And keep in mind, no man is free when freedom fails. The best men rot in filthy jails, and those who cried, appease, appease, are hung by those who they tried to please. So what I'm saying is that until the people of this world wake up and learn how to read and think and understand the words and the terms of why we use the words that we do and why the politics operates the way it does, and we educate ourselves, we're never going to be able to figure anything out or do anything to straighten the situation out, because too many people have been lied to and have grown up all their life believing something which is not true and thinking they understand something when it's totally wrong. And so that's why I don't hold out much hope, because from what my viewpoint is, I've been doing this for almost 60 years, talking to audiences around the world. And I feel that trying to change the world and to wake up the world is like trying to empty the Pacific with a cup, because there's only a handful of people who see what's going on and are trying to educate their fellow man, and there's billions, with a B, billions of people who couldn't care less as long as they got their beer and their ball games and their silly religions and all their silly ball games, and they go along to get along, and they don't care about the future. They don't care about what's really going on. They just want to know that they have their beer and they have their food and their bellies are full and they're being entertained. That's all they care about. They don't care about freedom and liberty because they don't even know what the word means. And so that's why I don't think we're going to see much of a change, because we just don't know what's going on, unfortunately.
That is somewhat depressing to hear of someone with your vintage, with your experience in these subjects. My father used to be a bit of an optimist. From what I see when I'm talking to people online, there's a bit of a chrysalis of awareness that's taken place in terms of, if you like, the betrayal by the political class that seems to be undergoing. And I think we're seeing it in the UK, and I think we're seeing it in places like France with the Gilets jaunes. I think we're seeing it all over the place. But you're saying it's not enough, sir. Is that your point?
Yeah, I think it's not enough, because the people who seem to be waking up are such a small group in relation to the masses of the world who are sound asleep and could not care less. Most people don't care to know what's going on. They just want to be happy, to live their life the way they want, and they couldn't care less who's running government, who's paying who, and how it all works. They don't know how it works, and they don't care as long as they get what they want. And so it's a mass tactic. It's a mass misunderstanding. And that's why when I hear people telling me, I've had so many people say, well, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. I say, yes, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. It's a train coming. And so I've been all around the world. I've seen the people of this world. I have talked to audiences around the globe. I've roamed around my own country talking to people, and many of the people are good and trustworthy people. There are so many good people in the world, but they have no education, no background to understand. They have not studied the way that the world works. They don't know how anything actually works. And so you may have a Rolls Royce and you may have a beautiful car and a big highway, but if something happens to that car on the highway, you're not going anywhere. Why? Because you don't know how to work on the car. You don't know what's happening. You don't know how to fix the car. And so today we have massive, massive governments, big governments which are actually organized crime. It's organized criminal syndicates. And unfortunately, that is the truth, and it's very difficult for me to have to say that, because I know most people don't know that and they don't want to hear it. But I'm telling you, that's what we have going on today in the world, is huge organizations. We call them governments. The governments of this world are corporations. They're companies. And therefore, we have a corporate world. Everybody is a corporation. We all work for a particular corporation, whatever country we're in. That country is a company, it's a corporation. It runs on money. It runs on connections with other corporations and other businesses. And so that's why I don't believe that there's any hope for us, because none of us really know what's going on. And I do believe, though, that there may be some kind of a change coming, but not because of us humans. There very well might be some kind of a profound change coming on the earth, but not because of us, but because of the spirit world. I think there's something going on in the spirit world that is changing the human family. Another way of saying that, I think God has something to do with this. Whoever created us are watching how we're being misused and lied to and deceived, and maybe something's going to change, because we are coming into a new age, the age of Aquarius. We're coming into a new time when there's going to be a new heavens and a new earth and a whole new philosophy on the earth. So maybe something's going to change for us, but if it does, it's going to be because of God, not because of us.
A lot of us are having problems, big problems with religion, organized religion, not faith,
Yes.
but with religion, which
Yes.
seems to be duplicitous. It seems to be a control construct, which is dividing and ruling us almost as a political tool.
Yeah, absolutely.
How much of that, would you say that that's an accurate description of what's going on so far as religion is concerned?
Yes, and I would further add that the word faith is totally misunderstood today in religious circles around the world. Totally misunderstood. The word faith today in Christianity, we understand to be what we call hoping. We hope that something will happen. We pray and we hope that this will happen. We hope that that will happen. And we're praying and we're hoping that something will happen. And so we are determined that we hope it's going to happen, so we have faith. But that's not the word faith. That's not what it means. It's a Greek word that means something totally different. The word faith actually meant, and let me give you an example of what faith actually means. When you get up in the morning, you put your feet on the floor without looking. You didn't look to see if there was a floor. You didn't look to see if there was glass on the floor, or tacks or nails or anything that could harm you. You didn't look. You just got up and went about your business and didn't look at the floor. And the reason why is because the floor has always been there, and there's no reason to worry about it. It's there because it's always been there. And that's what faith means. Faith is a Greek word which means just get up and go and do whatever you're going to do, and don't worry about what's going to happen today or tomorrow or where you're going to be next year. Just get up and go and do whatever it is you want to do, and God will be there. The divine spirit we call God will always be there. It's always been here. And so no matter what you do, somebody else is in control, so don't worry about it. Just get up every morning and go and do what you want to do. And if it's not supposed to happen, it won't. And if it is supposed to happen, it will. So don't worry about it. Don't concern yourself with where you put your feet. Just get up and go and do what you want. And whatever is supposed to happen, it will. That's what faith means. Don't worry about tomorrow. Don't worry about what's going to happen, because whatever is going to happen is going to happen whether you like it or not. And the idea being is that if God is going to do something, you can't stop it. And if God's not going to do something, you can't make it. Since you can't make God do anything, and you can't stop God if he's going to do something, then don't worry about it. Just get up and go and do whatever you're going to do. and it will be, and God will always be there. The Spirit has always been there. The Spirit we call God has always been here. So don't worry about tomorrow, what's going to happen. The Spirit has always been here. It will decide everything for you. And so that's what faith means. Well, most people don't think about that. Most people think faith means to hope and pray about something. I don't hope about anything. I hold out no hope. I hope the only thing I have to do is be understanding, is to understand what the words mean. And I know that faith means just get up and go and do whatever it is you want to do and work hard at it, and whatever's supposed to happen, it will. And if it's not supposed to happen, it won't. And that's the way I have done what I do. I just do what I do, hoping that somebody will hear me. And if they do, then they're supposed to hear me. If people don't hear me, it's because they're not supposed to hear me. So that's the way I've lived my life. I just do what I want to do and do what I have to do, what I believe I have to do. And if somebody is supposed to hear me, they will. And if they're not supposed to hear me, they won't. So I don't care. I just do what I do. That's truly having faith.
Thank you, Jordan. Thank you. A road less traveled is our theme this evening. And I want to ask you questions that you're not normally asked so much, because there's a lot of you that people can check out online and what have you. But also, I want people to know a bit about your background as well. So perhaps first, sir, could you tell us, can you please describe your God, the God that you have faith in?
Yes. I look at the universe as if we were all computers. Our brains, the human mind, is a computer. And all your electrical nervous system in your body are all the wiring from a very complex computer. And this computer, we know that the brain does not give you any thoughts. Your thoughts do not come from your brain. We know scientifically that the human brain, was designed to do one thing only, and that is to control the movement of the body, control everything that's happening in your body, so you can get up, you can walk, you can work, you can do whatever you want to do, because the brain will control the muscles and the nervous system. But once you understand that the brain does not come up with thoughts, where do you get your ideas and your beliefs and your thoughts and your creativity? We don't know where that comes from. Scientists will tell you we don't know where thoughts come from. We know that the brain controls your body, but we don't know where your thoughts come from. And so my feeling is our brains are a computer, and our nervous system is the wiring of the computer. And I understand enough about computers to know that what a Wi-Fi machine is. Wi-Fi is an idea where one unit can control all the computers in a room. You can have 15, 20 different computers, and each one is doing something totally different, and it doesn't matter because the Wi-Fi will allow all the computers to do whatever they want to do, but you do it through that one Wi-Fi, and it is the one that opens the whole world up to you, no matter how many different computers you have. So I kind of look at that the idea of God is some sort of an electromagnetic understanding that's built into the universe, and that we pick up on it mentally. We say things like we get a bad vibe off of somebody, or I got a good vibe off of him or that, something like that. That's what I think God is, some sort of a spiritual presence in the universe, which is guiding us and our brains to see and understand and live a certain way. And so until you have trained yourself to think in terms of God being like an electrical charge in the universe that causes you to think and gives you ideas, and that's why people who come up with clever ideas, we say that they are inspired. Well, we say that the Bible has been inspired. Well, of course, great music has been inspired. Paintings are inspired. All kinds of brilliant things which a human mind has come up with, we say they are inspired. Inspired comes from the word spire, which is your breath. You can perspire, expire, and inspire. Inspire means the breath of life. And so something in the universe is feeding us, and we are being messed with by other presence in the universe that's trying to mislead us. And so it all has to do with spiritually understanding who we are and where we come from and what is God. I just consider God to be some kind of an all-encompassing spiritual communication that we humans have together with each other, and spiritual communication with something higher in the universe that inspires us. And inspires us to educate ourselves, to realize how the governments work, where we come from, where we're going when we leave this world. It's a very big story, and I've been all around the world talking to all kinds of experts. And this is why I usually try and say on every radio show, I am not the world's foremost expert on any subject. I'm not the world's foremost expert. Why? Because I know how much I don't know. But I do think the most important thing I do is to explain the things which I have learned from really important people in my life. I have talked with so many incredibly important people in my life I've been able to meet, and they have told me things that they were doing. They've told me and explained to me how religions work, how government works, how the banks work, how the world works. And I'm fascinated with this kind of knowledge. That's why I try and tell everybody the things which I've learned from the real experts. I'm not an expert, but I know who they are. And that's why I try and do, is just educate people to what I have learned.
In your estimation, is God a conscious collective? I suppose collective is as good a word as any from what you've said.
What was the term? Is God what?
Conscious.
Yes. Yeah, God is a consciousness, yes. It's a very difficult to try and explain what I mean by that, but it is a conscious thought, because as I said, I've heard scientists talk about the human brain, and they tell you that the human brain is only designed to do one thing, and that is to help you move your body. Your body, it depends on the brain to give you the electrical impulse so you can walk, you can talk, you can do all these things, you can run, you can work, you can play, because the brain controls the body. But the brain does not control your thoughts. We don't know where thoughts come from. They come from somewhere, but we don't know where thoughts come from. And so ideas and beliefs and all these things that we do and we are inspired to do, we don't know where it comes from. And therefore, we have to understand that there's good and bad in the spirit world. There is something that's good and something that's bad, and we're being led by the bad because we're most likely pre-recorded in our minds. We're probably bad to start with. And this goes all the way back into the ancient world. We've always tended toward being bad, and unfortunately that seems to be the case. Too many people are very easily led to do bad things. And Albert Einstein said one time that the world is a very dangerous place to live. Not because bad people do bad things, but because good people do nothing. And the good people just want to be left alone, and they're not going to be left alone. The people who are running this world are not going to leave you alone. You have to understand the way the world has been set up before you were born. Before you came into the world, there was already a whole world of business and routines and understandings and religions way before you were born. And when you came into the world, you had to just accept the world and learn what you can do and what you can't do, and learn to, to follow your religion, to follow your country, and to follow your culture. And that's why today we're all following something that was here long before we got here. It will be here long after we're gone. And so you have to break away from this idea of just going along to get along and follow the powers that be and do what you're told. I don't deal with that kind of thing. I never have. I've always questioned everything. Why are we here? Who are we? Where are we going? And when you talk about the law, whose law? What, when you say, well, it's written in the law says this and the law says that. My question is, who wrote that book? Who wrote the law? What law? Is it British law? Is it the law of the kings? Because the kings have a divine right of kings. What do you mean a divine right? It means that the Pope has blessed you. In Europe, the Pope has blessed you, so you have a divine right to rule. And then why? Because the Pope is the Holy Father. He talks to God. He's the Godfather, period. If you understand what I mean. And this is why powerful people from around the world, politicians and industrials, all go to Rome. Sometime in their life, like in Mecca, they have to go to Rome and bow down on their knees and kiss the ring of the Pope, because he's the Godfather. That's where you get the idea of the organized crime in America. The movie, The Godfather. Well, that's who he is. The Pope is the Holy Father, because he's connecting you with the Father. He's connecting you with God, so he's the Godfather. And this is why I'm just saying you need to understand how to think on your own. You need to understand how to think on your own. And you can't do that if you're not educated. So that's why I try and do what I do, to cause people to wake up and question everything around them. Everything. Words and terms and organizations and churches and religion. And my favorite subject, of course, has always been religion. I don't really care that much about politics, because I know what politics is. It's just organized criminality. It's organized crime, secret societies, and all kinds of secret orders going on behind the scenes at 2 o'clock in the morning while you're sleeping. Powerful people are making decisions for you. So I don't care about politics. I'm fascinated with theology and religion, and where the churches have come from, and where the different religions have come from, and how those religions are still impacting us today. The more we change, the more we stay the same. We still believe the same stuff we believed tens of thousands of years ago. It's just an extraordinary experience to live in this world and not realizing how much we have been lied to and deceived. And I talk about that a lot, and I hope people understand I'm not trying to, call down evil upon people's belief system. I'm trying to explain to you where your belief systems have come from. And if you need to get a better understanding about life, then you need to educate yourself. Where did the churches come from? Where did the words come from? And you've heard me talk about that quite a bit, I'm sure. So that's what I do. I try and wake people up to how much they don't know.
We've got Stav, PJ, and Jeff here. I want to open up to these guys to ask some questions. But before I do, and there are so many different directions we could take this now, but I think I'd like to ask you, finally, from me, Jordan, please, if you could explain what the age of Aquarius means and why it is relevant today.
Yeah, well, the whole of the New Testament story of Jesus The entire New Testament, I believe, is a metaphor. It's a symbolic story telling you something that you didn't even know it was saying. It's a symbolic story. Symbolic stories we call metaphors. And I think Jesus is a metaphor. I do not believe that Jesus as a man actually lived. I think Jesus is a metaphor, is a symbolic story. And once you understand what the symbolic story is, everything in Christianity finally begins to make sense. It all begins to make sense once you understand the story is a story. And this is why the Bible is called the greatest story ever told. It's a story. It's not the greatest collection of facts on the earth. No, it's the greatest story ever told. And the story is the oldest idea, the oldest problems in the world has always been from the beginning of mankind. No matter how far back you go, mankind has always faced one problem together, all of mankind. And that is a war between light and darkness, between ignorance and stupidity and brilliance and intelligence. It's a war between light and darkness. It goes all the way back into Egypt, goes back into India. It's a very ancient story of the war between light and darkness. Light means you're intelligent, you're enlightened, and darkness means you're ignorant and ill-informed and you don't know what's going on. So there's always been a war between light and darkness. Why? Because of these 12 hours of sunlight and 12 hours of darkness. And that's why today we have this problem of the 12 hours of darkness and 12 hours of light, the war between the sun and the darkness of mankind. The darkness on the earth is frightening. It's a very scary thing in the ancient world to be in the dark, because during the daytime, mankind is in control. You can go in and live your life and do what you want to do. But when the sun goes down, it's going to get very cold, and it's going to be frightening, and the animals are going to be out roaming around looking to have something to eat, and they're going to be looking at you, and so you had better find yourself a place to lock yourself in overnight so that the animals are not going to find you. And so there's always been this war between light and darkness, and that's why Jesus is referred to as God's Son, the light of the world. Of course, the sun, S-U-N, is the light of the world. Nothing. What else lights the world if it isn't our sun? And we only have one sun. We don't have 5 of them. We only got one sun. So God's Son is the only begotten Son. It's only one Son. It's only begotten Son. And he is our risen Savior. Risen Savior. Of course, the sun is your risen Savior. If it doesn't come up, we're going to freeze, and within 3 weeks, we'll probably all be dead. If there is no sun, we're going to freeze to death. And there will be no light, nothing to grow, and nothing to live, and we'll all be gone forever if there is no sun. And the sun is risen every morning, so we have a risen sun. And who owns the sun? Ask yourself that. Who owns the sun? Well, nobody owns the sun. Well, theoretically, if you believe, if you are spiritually inclined, you would say maybe God owns the sun. And so, therefore, Jesus is referred to as God's Son, the light of the world. Of course, the sun is the light of the world. And he is confronted by the prince of darkness. The prince of darkness is evil. Evil is stupidity and ignorance. It's evil. You put a D in front of the word evil, it becomes devil. You take an O out of the word good, it becomes God. God is good and devil is evil. These are just belief systems based on the normal life that we live. But people have taken these ideas and believe it as actual history. There is really no history in the New Testament story of Jesus. It's all symbolic metaphors. And once you understand that Jesus represents light in the world. He represents intelligence and wisdom and light. And what happens to Jesus is what happens to people who are intelligent and are exhibiting light. They're showing their light to the world. And so what happens to Jesus, that's what happens to light in this world. Where Jesus goes, that's where the truth and the light go. Because Jesus said, I am the truth and the light. So I'm saying that Jesus is a metaphor that symbolizes light. And light has always been at war with darkness, the prince of darkness. This is the story in the Star Wars. There's a very big story here. It would take hours to explain the symbolism. And go back to Egypt, going back to India. As a matter of fact, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, all three major religions today, all three major religions can be traced back to the Hindu religion. Hinduism forms the basis for Christianity and Judaism. Most people have never thought about that, but that's what the historians will tell you. All of our religions go back to Hindu. There's an extraordinary story about how Hinduism has played into our culture, into our civilization. But Christianity is just a retelling of the ancient Hindu story, and Judaism is nothing more than a collection of all the ancient pagan cults of the world. All the ancient pagan belief systems of the world were brought into one place, and we call that Judaism. And it's an extraordinary story, but people are beginning to wake up and understand that Judaism is not what you think it is. It has nothing to do with the ancient Jewish people of the ancient world, because there was no ancient Israel. When we talk about and think about the ancient world, we're told about ancient Israel. There was no ancient Israel. It never existed. It's just a story. There was no ancient kings and no ancient Israel. There probably was an ancient city, which is just a little town called Jerusalem, but it has nothing to do with today what we call the Jewish people. Jerusalem was an ancient city. It has nothing to do with being Jewish or Hebrew. And so, when you understand that Hebrew is a word taken from the Phoenician Canaanite. Today, where Israel sits, it was called the land of Canaan. It's a Canaanite religion, a Canaanite system. And Canaan was what we call Israel today. It sits in an area called the land of Canaan. So therefore, when you read about all the horrible things that happened in Canaan, the Canaanites, the Canaanites are what we call the Jewish Jerusalem today. Israel is a Canaanite religion. It goes back to the land of Canaan. Incredible how much we don't know about mythology, theology, religion, government. It's quite a story, and it takes a while to explain. And I can do that probably on another program. We could go into the background of religions in the Middle East. It's an extraordinary story of betrayal, of how much we don't know. We've been misled into believing things that are not true, and finally today it's starting to show itself today. Our religions are falling apart. Our churches are falling apart. Our religions are just being destroyed in front of us. Why? Because they're not true. They're misunderstood. And we bought into things and bought into stories that we now finding out are not true. And now we're having to deal with that. And I hope to be able to begin to explain to people where our religions have come from and our misunderstanding, where that has come from, and how we need to wake up and find out what the real truth is. Because to know the truth will set you free. And that's an incredible statement, because it's true. Once you understand where things have come from, all of a sudden you don't have to worry about things any longer. You know where they come from, and you know where the ideas have come from. And so that's what I do. I try and educate people the best I can. And I do the best I can, but I'm not the world's foremost expert. I've just talked to all the experts. I know who they are. And I know what they have shown me, and I want to show the world what they've never been told. That's why I do what I do.
And you have done in turn, Jordan, for the record, about, 10 years ago or so, I first heard you on George Nora's Coast to Coast, and you had an influence, so it does seem to be rubbing off a little bit. But I am curious about this Age of Aquarius, because, you say that you don't really believe in hope as such, but a lot of us that's about all we've got. And so the Age of Aquarius concept is fascinating, but a lot of people don't understand what it is.
Yeah, well, when you read in the Bible that Jesus told his followers to pray something called the Lord's Prayer, it's actually not the Lord's Prayer. The Lord told you, when you pray this way. If Jesus is the Lord, he'll pray the way he prays. But you are his followers. When you pray, you say this. So it's not the Lord's Prayer. It's the Lord telling you what to say. And so what we call the Lord's Prayer talks about the kingdom of God. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Let thy kingdom come and thy will be done on the earth as it is in heaven. It's right there in front of you. You just never saw it. What are you talking about? Let thy kingdom come. And it's the kingdom of God. Why? Because the word kingdom, we humans give different life forms different terms. We say that fish are in schools. Cattle are in herds. Ants are in colonies. Geese are in flocks. We humans give words to collecting animals and creatures together. We give them terms. And so what is it on this earth that we call are in a kingdom? There's something we call a kingdom. And what is the kingdom? It's an animal kingdom. Animal kingdom. Where do you find animals? You find them in a zoo. And this goes back to the word in the ancient Greek for an animal, zoo. Zodiological, zodiac. We get our word zodiac from zoo because it's a kingdom of animals in the heavens. The heavens show us the constellations of the zodiac. And so when you're praying, like Jesus said to pray, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, let thy kingdom of animals, let thy kingdom of the zodiac come, and let your will be done on the earth as it is in heaven. And what it's saying is very obvious, that the kingdom of God is the kingdom of animals in the heavens. And the kingdom of the animal in heaven, the animal kingdom, is the kingdom of God. And so it's a zodiological kingdom, the zodiac. And this is why the Jews, a long time ago, thousands of years ago, were worshiping Almighty God, the sun worship, and this is what we have today. Judaism and Christianity is still worshiping the sun, while Islam is worshiping the moon. And it's an interesting story about where the Christianity came from. Christianity is worshiping the sun, and so is Judaism. But today, Judaism is actually a combination of about 7 different groups. 7 different religions wrapped into one. We call it Judaism. Today, the Jews are not only worshiping the sun, they're worshiping the planet Venus, they're worshiping the planet Jupiter, They also today primarily worshiping the planet Saturn. Saturn is the god of the Jews today. Jews around the world will tell you their god is the planet Saturn. And Saturn was known in the ancient world as Lord of the Rings. And today, the Jews in Hollywood are still making movies about their god called Lord of the Rings. And Saturn is Lord of the Rings. Women were told to listen to your god, so they will wear an earring. Men were to get married before their god, so they wear a wedding ring. So this whole idea of religion goes back to the ancient pagan cults of the world. It's really quite a story when you find out where your religious beliefs have come from and what it actually means. And when you discover that the zodiac is actually the kingdom of God. And if you go back into ancient history, you'll remember that the Jews were worshiping a golden calf. And then Moses comes down from the mountain with a new dispensation, a new religion for the Jewish people. And he sees that the people of Israel are still worshiping the golden calf. The golden calf is the sun in the age of Taurus, the bull. For 2,150 years, each one of these signs of the zodiac is 2,150 years. And so the Jews are worshiping the sun in the age of Taurus the bull, the golden sun, golden calf, bull. The golden calf is the sun in the age of Taurus the bull. But Moses comes down from the mountain and he says to the people, God has ordained a new religion for you, a whole new way to worship God. So you better wake up and understand there's going to be a new religion coming on the earth. And that religion is the next constellation of the zodiac, and that is the age of Aries, the ram. Aries, the ram, is the new religion God wants you to worship him in the age of Aries, the ram. And so today we have the Jews who blow the ram's horn. The shofar is the Aries, the ram, and the sun in the age of Aries, the ram. And then after that, after the age of Aries, the ram, what comes next? The age of Pisces. The age of Pisces is a symbol of the sun in the 2,150 years in the age of Pisces. And what is the symbol for the age of Pisces? It's two fish. That's why Jesus fed his followers with two fish. The two fish are Pisces. And then when Jesus is going to die, the scripture says, if you go back to the book of Luke in the New Testament, Luke, I think it's 10:22, I think it is. In the book of Luke, the 12 apostles, of course, the 12 months of the year, the 12 signs of the zodiac. And the chosen 12 come to Jesus, God's Son, and they say, now that you're going to die in this age of Pisces, now you're going to die, what's going to happen to us? Where are we going to go? Where is the 12 followers? Where are we going to go? And Jesus says in Luke 10:20, or 20 verse 10, I think it is. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it's in the book of Luke, where Jesus says to his chosen 12, now that I'm going to die, where you're going to go is you go into the city and you will see a man carrying a pitcher of water. Go into the house of the man with the water pitcher. Well, what is the symbol for the man of the water pitcher if it isn't Aquarius? Aquarius is symbolized by a man carrying a pitcher of water. So what we're talking about is the Bible is telling you, get ready, because we've got a whole new religion coming on the earth. And that's why in the Bible, in the New Testament, in the book of Revelation, it says there will be a new heavens and a new earth. And all that has preceded it will be gone forever. There'll be a new heavens and a new earth. The new heavens is now going to be the age of Aquarius. The stars in the heavens will be a new heavens, and it will cause a new earth. There will be a whole new world coming, and it will be based on Aquarius. Go into the house with the man with the water pitcher. The house of the man with the water pitcher is the house of Aquarius. And here's something else you need to remember, is that nobody in the ancient world, no time ever did men carry water. Never. It's in all the reference books, in all the biblical reference books. Man never carried water. Water was always carried by women. The Bible talks about the women at the well. Men never carried water, ever. It was not a manly thing to do, is to carry water. Women carried water. They still do today. So when Jesus tells his chosen 12, the 12 apostles, go into the house, go into the city, and you will see a man with a pitcher of water, what he's saying symbolically, God's Son, S-U-N, is telling you, get ready to leave the age of Pisces, the symbol of two fish, and get ready to go into a whole new religion for the next 2,150 years. We're getting ready to go into a whole new religion. It's called the Age of Pisces. 2,150 years when the sun will rise in the constellation of of Aquarius. So the bottom line on the New Testament story is simply astrology. The whole of the Bible, of the Old and New Testament, is an astrological symbol. It's an astrological tale telling you about the coming of worship of God in the heavens. And the Christians today will tell you about all the terrible signs in the heavens, the signs that are in the heavens. And there are going to be signs coming in the heavens. Yeah, the signs of the zodiological signs in the heavens. And we're getting ready to go into the age of Aquarius. You need to get ready to understand the religion you have is nothing but astrology, and astrology dominates the whole world. And since we humans have been guiding ourselves and navigating around the earth with the stars, it's about time we start navigating our life with the stars. And this is something else that I think is important, is that star, today we spell it S-T-A-R, star. But in the Middle Ages, early Middle Ages, it was not spelled S-T-A-R. A star was spelled A-S-T-A-R, Astar. And Astar, but today we drop the A and we just spell it star, S-T-A-R. But if you go back to the dictionaries and do the research, you will find that A-S-T-A-R was how the people spelled the word star during the early Middle Ages. And they said in the church, if you don't understand the Astars, if you don't understand the implication of the Astars on your life, then your life is going to be a disastar. D-I-S, disastar. And it's true. That's what's happening in the world. Our lives are a disaster. Why? Because we don't understand the world we live in. We don't understand the heavens. We don't understand the stars, the moon, the sun, and the whole universe that we live in. We just don't understand because we've never been told. We've been told all kinds of stories, but nobody's been told the real truth. And the actual truth is astrology is the basis for all religion, period.
Wow. Which begs the question, should we have more faith in horoscopes or religion? It's kind of a joke question, Jordan. Let me pass over to Stavros, who has a question for you. Stav, please.
Yep.
Okay, yeah. Good evening, Jordan. It's a privilege to speak to you and be on the show where you share your knowledge, many years of knowledge, and I'm very privileged to be able to put a question to you. I've watched many of your YouTube videos, and I've took a lot of inspiration from them and looked into things that I didn't quite understand, And now I have a better understanding through your work, and I'm very grateful for that. So, but I have a short question. You're welcome, sir. I have a short question. If you could, in brief, I don't want to tax you too much because I know it's probably a whole different one program altogether. But a lot of people don't understand the monetary system as regards the exchanging of bills, and they don't realise what they mean in commerce with banks today and what banks have been and what they are. So I wonder if you could just give us a quick, very explanation, if you can, that is, like I say, if you can, about the exchanging of bills, and that basically a promise to pay, and the bills really never get paid, so there we are. If you wouldn't mind, very briefly, if that's okay.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Thanks very much.
Do we have time? How long is the interview? It'll take me a couple of minutes. Okay. Here in the Western world, our money system is based on interesting concepts. We say that money goes through your hands like water. Money is considered internationally, money is considered to be water. It's a cash flow. The liquid asset is liquid. Liquidity means water. It's liquid. And therefore your money is water. And and the reason why is because when you have cash, you put it in a bank. Why do we put money into a bank? Why do we do banking? Because the word bank comes from a river bank. What does a river bank do? It directs the flow of the currency. This is why your money is called the currency. It's a cash flow, a liquid asset. And it goes back to the fact that when you were born, you came into this world when your mother's water broke. You came down the birth canal, and you came out of your mother to be born, and you were encapsulated in water. So her water broke, and you came out, and that's why if you're in Christianity, you have to go and be baptized to be born again, because you've got to go back into your mother's water if you're going to be born again. And so you go back into a lake because that's the water from your mother earth, mother nature. Your earth is your mother. And you go back into her water, into a lake or a river. And so mother's water is where you get your idea for money. It's an incredible story. But let me explain to you how to understand it. If I call you, let's say that you are a contractor, a painting contractor, and I call you to come and paint my office, and you come over and you look at the job, and then you give me an estimate of $100. You give me an estimate of $100 to paint my office, and I agree. We're talking business. We're talking corporate business. When you are through with your job of painting my office, you hand me a bill, and the bill is for $100, and you're expecting me to pay the bill. Then I take that bill that you gave me, and I reach in my pocket, and I pull out my wallet, and I give you a $100 bill. I've given you a $100 bill. You owe me. You gave me a bill for $100. I give you a bill for $100. It's called a $100 bill. If you had given me a bill for $20, I give you a $20 bill. Or $1 is a $1 bill. And so money is you cannot pay a bill. You can only discharge a debt. So what I'm doing by giving you the $100 bill, I'm not paying you anything. I'm discharging the debt. Since you now owe me $100 and I owe you $100, let's call it even. All you got to do is keep a record of it, so that you will find out who you paid and who you didn't pay. You're not paying. I'm not paying you anything. I'm discharging a debt. I'm canceling out your debt by giving you a bill for $100. And so that's the way it works. You're not paying anybody. And that's why, incidentally, you don't own anything. If you're in the UK, you don't own anything. You may have a what is called a what's the word they call?
A license?
It's not. No, you will have a monetary interest. You will have an interest in something, but you don't own it. You don't own your home. You have an equitable interest. You have money involved in buying your home, but you didn't buy it. You don't own it. You merely have an economic interest in the home. You have an economic interest in your car, but you don't own it. The only way you own anything is called, in maritime law, the only way you own anything, there's a word for it, and I'm getting too old and too many things going through my mind, I forget. There's a word for owning something. It has to do with, what is the word? My mind is slipping.
Not a title holder, Jordan. Something like that.
Say it again?
A title holder? Something like that?
No.
Would it be an agreement?
No, there's another word for it in banking, when you actually own something. And I can't remember the word because my mind is getting old and I'm getting tired and I can't remember. But it's a word that means that you actually own something.
An asset, Jordan.
What is it?
An asset.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
I'll have to try to remember this. It'll come to me in a few minutes.
It'll come back.
But the point being is that you don't own anything. Therefore, if you don't own it, you never paid for it. That's why you don't own it, because you never paid for it. You merely have an equitable interest in something.
The custodian.
You put money into something, and we say that you own it. You don't own it. You merely put money into it, and therefore you can use it, but you don't own it. And that's why today.
Marty is suggesting the word custodian.
No, that's not the word.
Would the word be proprietorship?
There's a word that means you actually. Say that again.
Looking for trust. I trust.
No. No, it's a strange word that's used in commerce. It's used in commerce to actually own something. And I can't remember the word. And the reason why is because I'm begging off from trying to remember the word, because at 80 years old, it's very difficult for me to remember all of this stuff. I've been talking about it for years.
We've got Jeff here as well, Predator Jeff, who I think had a question along these lines. Jeff?
Yep.
Hi, Jordan. It's Jeff here. I don't know whether that word was steward that you were looking for, possibly, or possessor, or something like that.
Say the word again.
Could it have been steward, or possessor, or something like that?
Wouldn't be beneficiary, would it?
No. Nope. That's different.
Okay. All right, not to worry. We're getting the gist out of that anyway, Maxwell. And in fact,
there's a word in commerce that actually means that you actually own something. It's yours, and no one can take it from you, no matter what. And so, but that is not something that you are able to do. You don't own anything, but royalty owns. Royalty can own something. You cannot. You merely have an equitable interest, meaning you have money involved in something. So if I'm going to buy your car, you paid money for it, so I have to give you back some money to get it from you. So you have an equitable interest in it, but you don't actually own it. And when I buy it from you, I don't own it because I didn't give you anything for it. You wanted $1,000. I gave you $1,000 in bills, and so you owe me $1,000. So I didn't give you anything, and so it's interesting the way money works and how the banking works,
and also how language itself works, which is, I think, your main point here. No, how language we.
Yes.
We use words all the time, and we don't think about what they mean. And you're saying, look at the etymology.
I just remembered the word. I just remembered the word I was looking for. It's called allodial. 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 Royalty in Europe can own allodial. They own their castles allodial, meaning the word means to absolutely sovereignty own something. And so allodial means to actually own something. So if you're going to go buy a new car or buy a home, you ask the person you're dealing with at the bank, I'd like to buy my car with an allodial title, allodial, allodial title. And they will say, hold on, we have to go get that particular contract. And then they'll get a particular contract and you sign it, and it's a allodial contract, which means I own this piece of property, period. End of sentence. Nobody can take it from me. No one. Nobody on the earth can touch this car because I own it. And so it's called a allodial title. Now that I remember that. So anyway, when you, all ships, a rocket ship, sailing ship, any kind of ship is always a female ships. And that's why, because the ship delivers products. And so the male in a marriage, he manufactures. The woman is in labor when she is creating what the man has manufactured. He manufactures. And the woman is in labor creating the product that he has manufactured. And so it's a very interesting series of words and terms that we use when children are born. They are the product of a maritime admiralty product. They came down the mother's birth canal, and they came out, and the water broke, and they came out into life. They were born. All of your banking is based on shipping. Everything is in shipping. This is why you have a citizenship. You have courtship, a dealership, scholarship, all kinds of words that end in ship, because our life is based on shipping, on the ships of the high seas. Human life depends on the ships on the high seas, so everything is a ship, including our citizenship. And so when you see a ship come into port, when a ship pulls into port, where the ship stops and parks is called a berth, the B-E-R-T-H, a berth. And so the ship sits in her berth. If you're going to go somewhere on the high seas, you're going to go on a ship, you have to go down to the port and find out where your ship is berthed. Where's the berth? And so it tells you where your particular ship is. And so it's called berthing a ship. And she is a big ship. And that's why captains always talk about their ships. Airship, rocket ship, sailing ship. Ships are always a she. And captains will tell you, oh yeah, she's a good ship. and she's been through a lot, and she's very seaworthy, and she's this and she's that. Why? Because a ship is a she, it's a female. Why? Because she delivers the product. When that ship comes in, it has products on board, and it comes in on water, so it's a maritime admiralty products. Well, the same thing with you. You came in on water. That's why and so where the ship sits is called its berth. And so each time a ship comes into harbor with $800 million worth of Toyotas or televisions or whatever's on it, you have to have a certificate for each and every article on that ship that's coming in. You have to have what is known as a birth certificate. And that's why when you were born, you have to have a birth certificate, because your mother produced you in water. So you came in and she delivered you as a product. So she delivered you, and it's called a birth certificate, because the ships, when they come in and sit at the berth. And so they sit next to they sit next to the dock. They tie off at the dock. And so that's why you have a birth certificate signed by the doc. The doctor has to sign your birth certificate. And your birth certificate is a maritime admiralty ownership. Somebody owns your body, not your parents, not your mother, but it's in business. You are a maritime admiralty product. Someone owns you. And in America, you can do this. You can see that yours name, if you go on the stock market and ask about your name in the stock market, and you can call the stock market in New York and tell them that you found a certificate of a stock certificate, and you want to know how much it's worth, and tell them you were cleaning your grandmother's home and you found this old stock certificate and you want to know how much it's worth. And so they'll say, well, give me the stock number. And so you turn your Social Security card around to the back of the Social Security card, and you will see a set of numbers on the bottom of your Social Security card on the back. You give that number to the security department in New York, the New York Stocks Exchange, and they will give you back your name, and they will tell you, yes, that stock belongs to so-and-so, and they will give you your name because it's on the back of your Social Security card. And so, therefore, that is a stock certificate on the New York Stock Exchange. And it's worth millions of dollars, but most people don't know that they have a stock certificate on New York Stock Exchange worth millions of dollars, because they are a maritime admiralty product. You understand what I'm saying? That it's all business.
Yes, it's all very concerning. This is what John Harris was talking about before we lost him. Jordan, thank you very much indeed. I want to pass over to Jeff, who I think's got a question for you.
Okay.
Hello, good evening, Jordan.
Good evening, sir.
I've listened to a lot of your videos, and it's fascinating stuff, I have to say. I think I don't know that I share the same sort of despondent views of where we're going. I think there's potential. I think there's potential on the way. I can see light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not necessarily a train coming. I think maybe I'm just being a bit optimistic, but I think we've got technology as a potential solution. I think technology can go one of two ways. Obviously, it can be for good, or it can be for bad.
You're right. You're right. It can go both ways.
It can indeed. For example, a lot of these technologies with Wi-Fi, things like that, I think are particularly, I think they're potentially hazardous, let's put it like that. And I think they use us as guinea pigs and test these things out. It's like I always say that we've got all this knowledge.
Predator Jeff, God bless you, sir. There is a question here somewhere, isn't there?
Just getting to that, Ollie. I'm just getting to that. I think we've got a lot of knowledge and information, but I don't think we've got a lot of wisdom. It's like, we invent something and we just roll it out willy-nilly and take chances, a lot of crazy chances, which I think is dangerous. I think they should test these things out thoroughly. The question I was going to get to is about cryptocurrency, actually, a new form of technology to do with different types of fiat cash, if you like. Do you think cryptocurrency is a potential? My question to you is this, Jordan. Do you think cryptocurrency is a potential solution to the central banking system?
I'm not. I've thought about that, and I've talked to a lot of people about it. It would appear that this cryptocurrency may be an answer to some of the problems we're facing on the world of commerce. But I'm not sure, really. I don't know that much about it and how it will impact the world of banking. I'm not sure. There's too many things that I don't have an answer to. That I don't know what's going to happen if we go to a complete cryptocurrency. I'm not sure what's going to happen. But it's all very interesting to watch because the people who are involved in the top of the line and the top of our economic world systems, they don't seem to like it. And so that tells me it might be something of real value to us. But I know a little bit about cryptocurrency, but I don't know enough to be able to prophesy about what it's going to do for or against us. It's a strange thing which is developing. The world is developing in a very strange way. And that's why I think that there's going to be possibly something will happen that's going to change the human race. It's going to wake us up to a whole new reality. And from here on out, when you go to church, it's not going to be a man on the cross. It's no longer going to be fish symbols. It's going to be a man with a pitcher of water. That will come later. I don't know how, but it will come. Because that's what you're doing when you ask God to let your kingdom come and let your will be done on the earth as it is in heaven. Well, that's nice that you ask that because his kingdom is going to come and his will is going to be done whether you like it or not. And once you understand the zodiac, it's going to come and it's going to affect the earth and his kingdom will come and his will be done on the earth. Is called the zodiac. And so I see that governments are changing, ideas are changing, and I think it's about time that we wake up and find out how our world works and where we got all these ideas from and what the words mean in religion and in government. Because if you look it up in a law dictionary, look up commerce, the word commerce, in a law dictionary, you will find that commerce means sex. Sex is referred to as commerce. It's a supply and demand. It's a commercial operation. And that's why if you're going to get married, you got to get a license because it's commerce. You're going to do business. It's called a business license. You got to get a license to get married because it's a business. Thank God it's none of my business, but it is a business. And so if I see you coming out of a restaurant at 2 o'clock in the morning with a particular woman, I say to you the next day, you know that woman you were with last night? Yeah, she's bad company. And you say, mind your own business. Business, company, yeah, we're talking about commerce. It's a bad company, and it's none of my business. It's your business, but not my business. And so sex is a business, and that's why if you're going to get married, you got to get a license. It's a business license. And if your business, thank God it's none of my business, and my business is none of your business. But if your business doesn't work out, you're not going to God. You're going to court. And you better bring your house and your car and everything you own, because it's just a business. Period.
Funny you should say that.
Go
Jordan.
on. Please, Jeff, please.
I was just going to say, it's funny you should say that, Jordan, because I've looked into certain things to do with marriages and all that, and yes, it does seem to be a three-party agreement. Basically, you've got the man, the woman, and you've got the state as a third-party interloper, if you like, because the state, in its usual form, acts as a middleman. So they're taking a percentage one way or another and skimming off the top.
Yes, and your license, your marriage license, is issued by a third party called the government. It's issued by another party, and so therefore, whoever issues you the license implies that they are more powerful than you are. They give you permission to do something. So if they give you permission, that means that you don't have permission to just do what you want. You can't just go out and marry somebody. You got to get a license. You can't go out and talk about Jesus in a church. You got to get a license. You got to go to a seminary and get a license to talk about religion and theology. Because why? The government owns you. The government owns everything you do. And so you got to get a license and ask permission. This is this is the kind of stuff that we live with.
On that point, though, George, has that not changed with the internet now? We can all opine now, can't we?
Well, it's starting to slowly but surely inculcate itself into the minds of the people. People are finally very slowly beginning to understand how things work, and nothing works the way you think it does. I've been saying that for years. Nothing in this world works the way you think it does. Nothing. The police are not here to protect you. Banks are not here to save your money. Government is not here to protect you. Period. Nothing works the way you think it does. And in relation to America, when the United States of America was founded back in 1770s, there was a different kind of country. It was called a republic. And then in 1871, after the Civil War in America, the United States was a lot of things, but united wasn't one of them. We were no longer a United States after the Civil War. There was a violent, bloody Civil War in America, and we were divided down the middle. One half of the country was hating and killing the other half. And so after the Civil War was over, we were anything but civil. There was nothing civil about it. And so we no longer had the United States of America. It was not a United States. We were not united. We were warring against each other. And so the United States no longer existed. In 1871, it was decided by the politicians and the bankers who financed the politicians. It was decided that the United States of America no longer officially exists. There is no such a thing as the United States of America. Why? Because we just went through a war. We're not united. We're killing each other. It's not united. And so the politicians thought, well, what are we going to do with the people? Because the people are still here. The ones that are left are still here, and they want to eat. And they're going to want to raise families and continue to live. So what are we going to do about all the people that are still here? And so it was decided that the United States of America would become a corporation. They would open a company, a corporation called United States. And they stipulated that anyone who would work for this corporation would be called a citizen. Therefore, it's no longer the United States of America. It's a United States citizen, the citizen of the U.S. or a U.S. citizen. U.S. is not U.S. of A. There's two different words, United States of America and United States Corporation. It's a company. And so today, Americans are not Americans. We're not living under the United States of America. We're living under something I call a corporation. It's a company. And all companies have to have a president. So we've got a president. And then all companies have to have a vice president. Okay, so we got a vice president. And all corporations have to have a secretary-treasurer. Okay, so we got a secretary-treasurer. President, vice president, secretary-treasurer is what you have to have if you're going to have a corporation. And so if you look in the law books under Congress, look up the word Congress like you did with commerce. Look up Congress. Congress is a word for sex. If you look in a law book, you will see Congress means sex. There's a chorus and there's Congress. Congress means having sex. And so this is why today we have a United States Congress.
What does that have to
It's a
do
sexual
with
term.
legislation, Jordan? What does Congress, sex, what does that have to do with legislation?
Well, that's how you got a country, is because of people. And people having sex are causing more people to be born. And so this is where your country comes from. It's from sex. So it's called a Congress. Look it up in a dictionary. Look it up and see Congress is sex. It's because the very, very basic idea is that you have a country because people are getting married and having children. And the children are the children of the country. And so this is why you have a Congress. It's actually a very big story. It would take hours for me to explain in detail. And I could do that another time. I know we don't have a whole lot of time.
Jordan, I was just going to ask, Jordan, did you also know that Congress is also the collective term for baboons? So could it be that run by a bunch of monkeys?
Aye. Okay, we got a question from Marty, who unfortunately can't ask it himself because his microphone isn't working. But he wanted to ask Jordan if what your thoughts were about Tartaria, Grand Tartaria. Now, that's as much of a question as I got from him. Just he wants to know if you have any take on, Great Tartaria.
I've come across that word, but I'm not really sure where it's coming from or what it implies. I haven't really looked into it very much. I've seen the word. I've had people ask me about it, but I haven't really looked into it because I'm not really interested in it. So I think I'll have to pass on that until I understand it better.
Fair play. PJ, did you have anything you wanted to ask, sir?
Hi, Jordan. Can you hear me all right, Jordan? Hello? Am I not coming through?
Jordan, can you hear PJ?
Yes, I can, but I'm not making out what he's saying.
My question for you, Jordan, if you can hear this question. At the age, you said 60 years, at the age of 18, 19 roughly, what was it that got you into believing the things or understanding the things that you do today?
Oh, when I was a very small child, I was very inquisitive. It was something I was really interested in as learning and getting answers to my questions as a child. And I realized that adults don't have any answers. They don't know. So you're wasting your time if you're a 9-year-old child asking adults. They don't know anything. They've never been told anything. They're not educated. So all adults are grown-up children. They're just children who grew up. And they're bigger than you are, but they don't know anything like you don't know. And so I realize that if I'm going to learn anything, I got to study the subjects myself. And so I realize that adults just don't know. And let me give you an example. When I was born, I came into a Catholic family, and my family were very, very Catholic, very devout Catholic. And the Catholic school, the nuns told us, children, that there is in the Catholic Church a particular mass, a particular meeting that the church has for children. There's a particular kind of ritual done in the church for children. It's called confirmation class, where a child is confirmed to be a Catholic. And so we were told in the school when we were like 8 and 9 years old, the nuns told us that tomorrow night at confirmation service, all the children have to be there, Catholic children have to be there. And they told us, the nuns told the children that tomorrow night when you are at confirmation service, the bishop will be here. Very important, the bishop will be here, and he will be officiating over the service. And the idea is that he may, perhaps, maybe not, but the bishop might ask you children, after the service is over, he might ask you children if you have any questions, and he will try and answer them. Now, we were told, if he asks you if you have any questions, you keep your mouth shut. You have no questions. Don't ask any questions. And so the next night after the service was over, the church was filled with Catholics from all over the city because the bishop had come from a foreign city, from another city, to officiate over this confirmation service. And sure enough, after the service was over, the bishop said to us children, is there any questions that you can answer them? So I stood up and raised my hand so everyone could see who I am. I want everyone to see. I'm standing up so there's no misunderstanding who I am. And I said, yes, Bishop, I have a question. I said, my father works with a torch. He works with torches like a welder. And I said, he lets me play with the torch once in a while and teaches me how to use a torch. And I said, suppose I had a torch and it was burning, and suppose while I'm holding this torch, an angel appears to me. Could I take the torch and burn an angel? And he said, no. And I said, why not? And he said, well, an angel is a spirit. You can't even see a spirit, much less burn one. Because to burn a spirit means you have to have something physical, like paper or wood or plastic or something that will burn. To burn, and a spirit an angel is a spirit, and you can't burn a spirit. And I said, why not? He said, because spirits, you can't even see a spirit, much less burn one. And I said, well, if you can't burn a spirit, why am I concerned to go to hell where my spirit will burn forever if you can't burn a spirit? And nobody had ever thought to ask that silly question. And everyone looked at I could see people were trying to figure out, what did this kid just say? What did he just ask? And how come nobody ever thought to ask that question? Can you burn a spirit? No, you cannot burn a spirit. Well, then why am I going to hell where my spirit will burn? And then you find out there is no such a thing as a hell where your spirit will burn. These are just symbolic words that are telling you something. It's a symbolism. And so I realized at a very early age that I wanted to go to different churches with different friends in school. When I was going to school, all my school friends were going to different churches. And I used to go to church with my different friends and go to the different churches because I was looking for truth. I was looking for answers to my questions. I don't want religion. I want truth. I want to know and understand the words, the terms, and what they mean. And I'm looking for the truth. Well, I never found in any church anybody explaining anything. The ministers were always nice. They're always showing you, with the candles and praying and all that, but nobody ever answered any questions. So I realized that adults don't have any answers. So I had to do my own thinking, which I did. And I began to understand how much adults don't know. And this is why I today have a healthy skepticism of people in power. I always question authority because the word authority comes from the word author. And so when people tell me, well, this is the law and that's the law, my question is, who wrote that law? And why do you have to have a license to practice law? Because it's a business. And so it's an extraordinary story of how the world really works. So many people have to go to court, and you ask yourself, why do you have to go to court? Because you play tennis on a court. You play basketball on a court. How do you play tennis on a court? You play with a racket. Is there a word there, a racket, in court? Yeah, because courts are a racket. And why do you have to play? Because in a court, the idea is it's a game. The whole game is to put the ball back in the other guy's court. So when you go to court, you have your team. Your team's on one side of the room, and it's called a team of lawyers. And so your lawyers stand up and they throw the ball back in the other guy's court. Then the other guy's team, they stand up and throw the ball back in your court. And then you answer that and throw it back in their court. And so the judge is there. He's wearing a black robe. And the judge is there to make sure the game is played correctly. That's all. He doesn't care who wins or loses. He's going to get paid anyway. It doesn't matter. But he just wants to make sure the game is playing correctly. And so he's the umpire for the game. He's watching how the game is being played. And so you begin to see how courts are nothing more than playing tennis on a court. You play basketball on a court. It's just a game. And you're going to lose no matter how you do it, because the whole legal system is nothing more than a fraud. It's a court. You're playing a game, and you're going to lose the game. So I learned a long time ago how much adults don't know. And I intended to not be like that. I want to know, and I want to be able to prove what I believe. And I want to know where it comes from and why I'm believing what I do. And so that's a big story about how to educate yourself, how to understand. And if you really want to do that, if you want to educate yourself, go on my website. My website is Jordan Maxwell Show. Only 3 words, SHOW. 3 words, Jordan Maxwell Show. Any other kind of website has got my name on it, I don't own, and I don't own it. I have nothing to do with it. Other people use my name to make money off of me and my name. So go to jordanmaxwellshow.com. That's my website. And on my website, you will see a lot of interesting things, but also there's a flyer. There's a little flyer that says Jordan Maxwell Research Society. Click on that little button that says Research Society, and it will take you to another website that I own, in which I have put all of my research material on the web. But I'm not doing it for free. I'm not putting it out in the world for free. I used to do that when I was younger. I don't do that anymore. I don't want people seeing my research and my work unless you really care about the truth, unless you really care and want to know. And I want to show you. I want to prove it to you. But I don't want to do it for free. I can't afford to do it for free because it costs me money to own a website. I have to pay my webmaster. He has to be paid. It costs money to keep a website on the air. It costs me a lot of money to do what I do, and I don't have any money. I've been reading and studying all my life, so I don't have any money. I don't have anything. And so I need to pay for my website, my webmaster, and all the other business I have to do. So you have to join my research website. Go on Jordan Maxwell Show and click on the little flyer that says Jordan Maxwell Research Society and join it. And then you will see all the pictures and documents and audio and video and important people and important websites and important research I've been doing over the years. You will have access to everything I'm doing. It's all there, pictures and galore, all kinds of information you've never seen before. So that's what I do, and I'm trying to continue to keep it going because that's what I want to do. I want to put my work out for people to access, but I don't want to give it away because people who get things for free don't care about it. And I'm not here to entertain anybody. I'm here to teach. And so if you care about wisdom and knowledge and understanding the world you live in, then go on my research website, Jordan Maxwell Show to Jordan Maxwell Research. And that's, but just understand that I only have one website. Jordan Maxwell Show is my website. Anything else is not mine.
That's interesting to note because in preparation for today's chat, Jordan, I obviously had a look online to see what you were saying on your sites right now. And the first result, I think, was jordanmaxwell.com. But your site is jordanmaxwellshow.com.
That's correct. That's correct. Somebody else is using my name.
Yeah, I'm profiting.
Somebody else is using my name. It's Jordan Maxwell Show is my name.
Thank you,
That's
Jordan.
my website. Yeah.
Jordan, in closing, what would be your primary message? I think we've already probably got the picture, but hey, say it again. What would be your main message to anybody listening to this show? I think probably the average person listening to this show is rather like PJ Marty, Jeff and Stan and myself are activists, people that are trying to create some consciousness. What would be your message to those of us that really are trying to spread their message, but finding it difficult and often getting frustrated?
The reason why you're frustrated and finding it difficult is because you need to understand how the world works. Let me give you an example. If let's say you own a building, and it's a 2-story building, and you're going to put a lot of weight on the second floor, like printing presses and automobiles. The smart thing to do before you go putting a lot of tonnage on that floor, the smart thing to do is go downstairs first with a building inspector and go up and take the ceiling tiles from the first floor, remove the ceiling tiles, and look at the floor and see if it's going to hold that kind of weight that you're putting on it. So what you're doing is you're standing under the foundation you're going to build on. And that's where we get the idea of understanding. You're standing under something to get understanding. So you need to go underneath of the words and the world you live in and see where these words really come from and what they mean. And then for the first time, you'll finally see how the world actually works. And the best way to do that, again, is just go on my website because I've got so much on there. that's helping people to understand where to look for the real truth, where to find it, and where did the religions come from, where did your governments come from, and what do the words mean, and why do you have the certain laws you do. It's all a very difficult story that most people have never heard anything about. That's what I try and do, and I try and explain simply where things have come from. And once you understand where something has come from and you understand it, then it begins to make a lot of sense where things have come from. Now you understand what the words mean and how you've been misled over all your life. You've been misled to believe something that wasn't true because you thought you understood it. And so that's what I do. So just understand that that's what I try and do, is educate people to how the world actually works.
Jordan Maxwell, thank you very much indeed, sir. You've been listening to Axiom Flux. I'm Ollie Connolly. Good evening.